well, it's run by a number of organizations, but it's put together by the CBIC, Shelter Business Innovation Council, CIC, Community Investment Collaborative, and SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And then we are also supported by the Brown Institute of UVA, Watermark Design, and Code-Based Co-working. And so they have been so gracious to let us utilize this space, and I'll talk more about them afterwards, but we're very grateful for this awesome space. Before, when we first started, we were at the iLab, and the iLab is no longer in its original form, and so we were virtual for a couple years there during the pandemic. So very proud to say that this event's been going on since 2015. Really hasn't skipped a beat at all. So pretty cool. But glad to have you guys here for the first time. Format, and my name is Hope McCutcheon, by the way. And I'll be your host. But format-wise, we have every month 2 different speakers. We have an early stage company that shares about the company and has an ask for the audience. So it's actually an opportunity for you to participate, help them solve a barrier to growth. And then the second speaker, we always have a seasoned entrepreneur that shares their crash and learn stories. So really the lessons they've learned the hard way, and the journey is always incredibly fascinating, and they're not always the stories you get to hear, online or whatever. So, so with that, we can go ahead and introduce the first speaker. So Ryan Hill and his wife Danielle are here, and they originally had started a video production company that they still have, by the way. I heard that funny. They have a video production company called Still Life Projects. But this couple had originally met working for National Geographic doing documentaries, which is literally the dream for so many people. So it's such a cool story. One of the films that they had made won the Sundance Cinematography Award in 2011 on the redemption, or it was called The Redemption of General Butt Naked, which was about the Liberian Civil War. They actually came to Charlottesville 10 years ago just for a change of scenery, and their production company continues, like I said, to flourish. They do commercials, they do agency work, they work with big companies like Ford, Deloitte, Facebook, etc. They really have a chance to travel the world together through their work with National Geographic and their current work. They have 2 daughters, 5 and 7, and they're here to talk about, I believe Ryan is going to come up to talk about his company, Ce-2. So help me welcome Ryan Hill.
Thank you for coming. Good to see you guys. Yeah, thanks to the code building. Let's see if we can everyone come to the event. As Hope mentioned, we had a video production company. We still do. It's going strong. And during the pandemic, everything ground to a halt. So we were on pause for a little while, and then a friend became head of content for iFit, which is a Nordic track. And she called me and said, "We need content for our machines. People, our numbers are way up. And we need you to go around the world, make documentaries for people to watch while they're on their treadmill." And so I said, of course, and it was a nightmare in the middle of the pandemic to be flying to Turkey, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Greece, and a couple other places we sent through. But the highlight of that time was in Namibia, and we went on the Skeleton Coast and spent time with Stan Bushman, and we did a bunch of different walks for iFit. And then Alex Gregory, who has won 2 gold medals rowing for the UK in 2 different Olympics in London and Brazil, 5 World Championships, and he's such a high-rated draw for iFit that they were having him also lead walks on the treadmill. So we were filming those. We had a great time, and so we looked for a chance to collaborate in the future. And then he called me up about a year ago and said, I think they'd run out, and Eric was, on its way out. He said, "Why don't we film me doing workouts and put them online?" And I said, "That's a great idea. What could be easier?" So the first thing we decided we needed was good sizzle reel, like a highlight reel, to figure out what we were doing and show people what we were doing. So he said, I've always wanted to go to Norway with the fjords to row. Why don't you guys come over there? So we said, great. And last May, Danielle and I went to Norway, and we also sent a crew to shoot in the UK to make a sizzle reel. And so I'd like to play that for you. We came up with the name Ce-2. So here's the sizzle reel.
As a boy, I simply wanted to be good at something. I found myself. 15 years of upsets, failures, injury, I was just getting nowhere. I even went to the Beijing Olympics. As a result, I wasn't good enough to compete. Then I realized what was holding me back. My training. I needed to build strength the right way and sharpen my technique. I also realized that I couldn't do it alone. So I leaned into the people around me. They lifted me up. Training felt easy. My dreams became real. I wanted them to share his work for me. For 16 years in professional life, I developed a theory that can help people get the most out of their training and find out yes. 2 years later, a custom workout.
So we don't even use that system anymore, it's kind of outdated. But we still have it, I'm sure it'll change. So while growing up, I know a handful of folks in here are into rowing, great full body workout, let's say 60% of your muscles, and only 20 minutes you can get a great workout in. And it's having, the New York Times had a thing in November, it said rowing's having a bit of a moment. People are getting into it, gaining popularity with Row House and other rowing gyms are popping up. Problem, it can get a little boring and it's technically challenging. If you don't know what you're doing, you can, you're doing it the wrong way, you're just not getting the benefit from it, lost opportunity, but also you can injure yourself. So people are looking for help and direction. So Fluenta is a subscription-based SaaS fitness and wellness platform. Peloton workout style with masterclass quality in National Geographic locations. So one thing that Alex did row life that people love the on the water stuff where they could sit on a machine and they could row and be on the water, they could feel transported. So that's how we jumped into it. We do not manufacture hardware, our content is available on any machine, which means it's licensable for shelf life. And we create genre-defined content that stands out from other companies that solely produce commoditized content. So really our hope is not going down the direction of live workouts and things, but filming these experiences that can really transport people is our aim. And this here's our website. And you read Story Brand to kind of help us put this together. My ask later on, to ask you guys to help me with branding, to ask you to communicate what we do. But these are our different strands, which we'll go into. I'll show you a couple of different samples, and yeah, trying to hit markets, a free 7-day trial, and we just got an app store and Google Play last week, so that's relatively new. Once you're a member, this is what the library looks like. So a lot of people use the app, but if you're on a computer or if you're going to stream it, this is what it looks like. And our first water road that we launched is here. It's a little trailer for the
Alex here, welcome to Norway. To be more specific, welcome to the fjords of Norway. This is somewhere I have always wanted to go. I'm so excited to be bringing you here with me.
So just a little taste of the water road that's very popular when we launched. I'll go into that in further detail. Our competitors are all pretty obvious. iFit, Nordic Track, Peloton just launched a rower a few months ago. Regatta, is it the water road? But they also have games. You play games when you're going to Regatta. And Hydro, they do a lot of water content as well. All 4 of these companies make their own hardware. So, and in addition, all of them need power and an internet connection to use. So that's kind of who we view as competition, but we're not making any hardware. So we're in the same space, but not direct. Guys, our content, a machine at a time, as I mentioned, a lot of people use tablets or something. So, timeline, we launched December 22, which was 10 months after the phone call, and Alex called us to talk about doing it. So it was just a Madden sprint that I don't know, and neither of us want to do it again. And but one thing that people said was, we love the water content, a lot more of it. So in January, we said, let's go to Portugal. Alex went there for 16 years to train with the British Olympic team. And we knew we would have access to it. So we went and here's some of the water content we made there.
We found the thing about being in a place that is very close to it. Spent most of my growing up training. I have so many memories that it's very serious when we explore the endless structures of the world. It's a great exercise. Yes. Seriously.
So we wanted to move in that direction, but we also thought he likes to run a concept too, which is what all the teams practice on around the world. It's the most popular. It doesn't need internet, it doesn't need power. So they were asking him to kind of move outside and grow all day, and other users were asking for that. So Danielle and I had a documentary. We thought, why don't we create a new product? Because growing can get kind of boring, and a lot of our people are hardcore water rowers. So that's a different segment. Our people, most of them have a rowing machine in their house, or they go to the gym and they row to stay in shape. And so we thought, why don't we kind of a travel channel, history channel type content while he's dropping off his content to somewhere interesting. And so we came up with a strand called Road Trips, where you travel with that. This is great on camera, as you can see. And so still that's video later. This is just a little simple.
We found up Fluenza. We're here in Lisbon. I'm going to show you the very best this incredible city has to offer. We work on so many technical things with our roads. Sometimes it's the mental ability to get off the machine and explore. So explore to one way Road Street and then have it first way to 1755 to describe the city, all while getting great growing work. So join me on my road trip to Portugal and we'll explore this incredible place together.
And they've been very popular. We sent out a survey last week, and the watermelon and road trips were my favorite. And nearly everybody in the survey said that they were to a friend, which we were very encouraged by. We need any good news or good bad. Our road is organic, 82% conversion rate from 7 to 8 miles a subscriber. And I mean, really, that's my presentation. So
your question.
yeah, would anyone like to ask questions?
No.
Yeah, and as most that I could ask, I wanted to talk a little bit about branding, just because we've gone back and forth with it. In that I told you guys what it is, and you've seen a few reels, but just wondering, which of these you might gravitate towards. I have a few slides to go over here. And this is a very informal focus group. So which do you like? Discover a new way to row, find your flow, a new way to row, or find your flow for Fluenza. And if we did B, you would not put Fluenza above it. So. Yeah,
I got it.
excellent. I want to hear what you have to say.
So I go with B. And the reason I go with B is I don't believe you're in the rowing business. You're certainly in the business of inspiring people. And you're also kind of in the entertainment business. I think this is something people will watch in conjunction with, it's using rowing as a vehicle, but it's much more than that, and there's competitors you put up there, aren't they also your customers? Or is that
Absolutely, and their machines are breaking, they're not being updated, and they're also running out of content. So they have content that's there, yeah.
So it's a content, but I also think like almost as a mini industry, you're promoting rowing. And you're promoting travel, you're promoting a lot of things, so you have a lot of customers and a lot of audience for the way next rowing.
Thank you, yeah.
That's why I find your flow.
All right, sold, yeah.
Well, don't you want the title to tell some degree what it is? So I would almost say what it does need to be in there. Yeah.
Well,
Just to throw that out there.
yeah, I think that, in my opinion, there's two things. One, on our website, when you come to it, you know what we do, and the second one is what is it? And to your point, we've had we also have meditative rows where there's nobody in it. There's it's just music and you hear the water in the row. And we're also looking at getting into meditation and things like that as well. So yeah.
I had two questions, right? One, Fluent, I'm wondering about the name. I like to find the flow. I wondered why not Fluent or something, because Flu, I don't know where the name came from necessarily. I know a lot of the other brands you were showing, there was something that makes me think about something to do with water or rowing. This is more like, we just came out of a pandemic, like Flu, like I don't know and I don't know if that's kind of too late or where the name came from. I'm sure there's something there, but the other thing I wondered about is anybody doing in this space, and I don't know the technology about this, but VR, AR, that type of thing. To me, that kind of experience could be really, really cool if I was on a machine and I'm actually there, feeling like I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That ship is sailing. Our name is Fluent. But in terms of the AR things, our good friend Max Salmon did all of Country Yards VR, and we talk to him from time to time about it. It sounds like it needs to be on our radar, but it's not. Right now, we're just trying to build our library of original content and be aware of it. I do think the AR could be a nice experience down the road, but right now our customers just want more of what we're putting out. We're just trying to get started in that direction. Great points.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I actually like when I look at Fluenza as a name, first off, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I think having the word relevant there is really important, and also the word discover, because, sorry, I'm getting feedback that's tripping me out. So like the word discover reminds me of like Nat Geo and all these Netscapes that you're using, and also need to have the word grow in there, I think is really important, just because Fluenza could be a pharmaceutical company, it could be anything, it could be a food brand, it could be whatever. But I think to add to that, when I look at just the way you brand everything and the travel aspect and the way you're catering to people who like to be part of that adventure, this would be so awesome to take people on retreats. Like just high profile VIP retreats.
Yeah, thank you. And we have a website, experiences.fluenza.uk, where you can get on the mailing list. The problem with retreats is that if Alex is, he explained this to me, because I've learned, but the problem is if you get a bunch of people that say we want to come on a retreat, we're going to pay $5,000 to come and have a time of our lives. If you're going out rowing, if they're all at different skill levels, it can be a bit of a nightmare. So like we have a friend who does running retreats, and it's great, and people can come and run as far as content. But I think they're a little more, you kind of need to find people who are the same skill set to do that. But thank you. Yeah, Portugal is where we will go, and we will do it. But it's kind of a question of what do we focus on right now. First of all.
My name is Vinny. I guess to chime in on maybe how this looks. I was wondering if it has so much water element, and we gotta keep the name, maybe have some blue in it as opposed to the black, and then maybe have a little wave to it to encourage that sense of flow to it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the black just for the way easy to read. We have our brand colors, or it's predominant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just having a ripple in the name kind of give a sense of a curve or a crest or a wave. That's just, and having rowed for myself, to me, I think a lot of it is getting in the zone, and I think you're trying to capture that, and with different people trying to do different things at times. And I always remember being in a sweaty locker room with other guys and just, trying to work it and trying to get the group energy as I'm trying to develop it. And I see a little screen and some guy, a beautiful image, and then, I'm rowing. I find I have to be in a really mental place to embrace that as opposed to pushing that to me. And I know some people, depending on their competitiveness and how they engage, that could be harder than other times. And so I see all the things you're trying to do to capture the imagination so that they tunnel into that program so that then they can kind of come through it. So things like that, AR, things for some people, that's really helpful. But I don't know, I just think that the ability to sound, if you kind of really encourage to have earphones that are really high quality, to develop that, and then even to capture some interesting things that may be very customized for them, and you try to do that with some of the places and they can choose. But even if you can even overlay something else that they're doing with this kind of thing, more customized and to capture how they get into it, the better. And you have very expert kind of competitive people, but I think if you want to expand your market, you kind of create like the educational / good exercise / just kind of, I take 30 minutes to myself. I'm learning something and I'm also developing it. Obviously, how that translates in could be a lot of different ways. I know you know all this. It's just good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
contact information that people can get in touch with you with more thoughts?
I do. I would love for you to, I put that there.
So go ahead and connect with
I'm
Ryan.
only starting reading through. Don't check me how many followers I have.
Hey, Ryan, I'm curious if you've approached a gym, if you have, what they say, or what do you think they would say is an opportunity there?
Yeah, thanks. No, and I think that we long-term see the possibility to license, and we're excited about that. And I do feel like it would come through that one of the providers, whoever licenses this stuff, I would hope that we could get pumped out and promoted, and once we have a library, right now we're trying to reach 1,000 users, that's our goal, and so we're kind of like, with only so many hours in the day, we're just simply trying to get revenue, get people signed up, and thankfully people come happy. But that's a great idea. There are a lot of just, the problem is if you teach a rowing class in person, you can only do it once or twice a day. It's awesome, So I do think there's an opportunity there with things like that.
Yeah, please do connect with Ryan, and I'm sure he's very open to your ideas and thoughts and whatnot.
Thank you.
So,
Yep.
yeah,
Great.
absolutely. Cool. Thank you so much. So now we will transition to what we call our crash and learn entrepreneur. And so I'm very excited to introduce John Elder, and just a little bit of background before I bring him up. First of all, we had him share about 5 years ago, and it's so cool when he can come back and just share again, because it's, I know, a new audience, but just very willing to share, which is cool. But John was actually born in Korea, but really lived all over the world because his dad was Army. And then they settled ultimately in Northern Virginia. He got his bachelor's and master's at Rice University, and then came to Charlottesville to work for a company in aerospace engineering for about 5 years before getting his PhD in systems engineering at UVA. He simultaneously, while getting his PhD, headed up research for an investment management firm here, and went back to Rice, I believe, for about 2 years. And then came back to Charlottesville again, and that is when he started Elder Research out of his basement. And this company has grown to about 130 employees. It's a phenomenal employer and company here in Charlottesville, which is a data science company. John has sat on a panel appointed by President Bush for guiding technology and national security for about 5 years, shortly after 9/11. He is an award-winning published author. He has 3 books, 2 of which have won Book of the Year. And overall, he's ultimately an expert in data science. It was fortunate to just really get involved in that industry at ground floor, and is a keynote speaker all over the world on this topic. So he is the father of 5. He is an avid basketball player, as a matter of fact. Played basketball before coming here this morning. Got washed up, dressed up, and here he is. So happy welcome, John Elder.
It's great to be here, and that was fun. That was beautiful stuff. And I love team sports. There's the competition and the cooperation at the same time. And one of the things we learned with basketball is to kick out anybody who's troublemaker. It's just not worth it. No matter how good they are, if they're a troublemaker, it makes it fun for other people to quit and so forth. And that's the same thing that happens in our job. In our business, we really want to hire the very best people. But best has to include how well they work with others. Do you play well with others? Do you respect other people? Do you want other people to thrive? Find a team, and that's the funnest thing about running your own company. Somebody says, "What's it like not to have a boss?" I said, "You've never been married." And if you're, a servant leader, then every employee is your boss. Every customer is your boss. You just have more obligations, more running around. But the cool thing is you pick your team, and you want people that work really well together, that respect one another. That Google this study. They said, what makes a good team? It doesn't matter what their degrees are, it doesn't matter what their race is, it doesn't matter. What they found was if there's cognitive safety, meaning not that you're not ever presented with ideas you don't like, but you you can say stuff, and it's not gonna be like used against you. You can brainstorm, you can ask questions, you can say, are you sure that works? Or have you thought of this? Nobody will say, who do you think I am? You know, or who do you think you are? Or whatever like that. They'll listen to you, and they'll say, oh my gosh, we never checked that. Or somebody will be grateful that someone pointed out a flaw in their work. You know, most of the things we try in data science, what we're trying to do is solve our problems. And there might be a problem like for British Petroleum had so much U.S. wells for gas in the upper Northwest, and they had this problem with lines clogging up. They would get freeze, or they would get silt from fracking, and they would have to come out and either plunge them with this huge, steel plunger, or they'd have to pour methane in there, and they'd have to get rid of the methane so it didn't hurt the environment. Anyway, it stops money from coming out of the ground. Money is coming out of the ground, and it stops. That's a bad thing. So they wanted somebody to predict ahead of time, 4 to 6 months in advance, which I don't know why they needed that much lead time, which wells were likely to start freezing. And freezing meant, unfortunately, every form of stoppage. We thought it had something to do with temperature for some unknown reason, the word freeze, but it also meant clogging. And it also, it turned out, meant that it stopped producing because of maintenance. It's like, that's a freeze. Anything that stops money from coming out of the ground is we need to predict it ahead of time. And we were 57% accurate at doing that. Now, how do you know if that's good or not? Well, the way they were doing it, it's about 3 times less accurate, about 17%. So they have a crew of trained staff and equipment that can go around, and at most they can hit 1/5 of the wells. So you can predict ahead of time which one's going to be the problem, and get to them before it happens, and not waste your time on ones that are fine, even if they haven't been seen for years. You've saved them tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So that's what data science is. Data science is looking at information you have from the past to try to predict the future. And it's not necessarily a time forecasting thing. Sometimes it's a state forecasting. What are the signs that something's about to go bad? So, or in transactions, what are fraudulent transactions, or an insider threat for agencies? Who's likely to reveal some secrets to their friends on gaming platform or something like that? Anyway, Elder Research could help with that problem, by the way, if anyone's listening. So it's been a lot of fun to work on those problems, and we were able to do 3 times better than the company was doing, and that would save them hundreds of millions of dollars without hiring any more staff, using the resource constraints that they have. So prioritization of workload is a major thing in the business. Now, you would think it would be easy to make a business when you can return gains like that. But there are a couple of problems. One is convincing somebody that you can help them. We've never worked on that exact problem before, so that's a bit of a challenge. Business development. Anybody's good at business development? Every industry, everywhere, all the time needs business development. And that is not a hardcore salesman, but somebody who believes in their product, somebody who's good with people, somebody who listens, takes the long view. I had one client say this one, well, he wasn't a client at the time. We'd been working on him a long time. He said to us once, "You're not like other people. You're not trying to sell me something. You're trying to help me." Of course, the best way to help you is to sell you something. He became a client a couple years later. But that's the attitude you can convey, and if you survive the wait, then that's really the best thing of all. You really have to believe in your product actually helping people, or your service, and then they have to believe that it will too. It's this huge trust. Because for us, it's trust of the people, and it's the trust of the technology. And sometimes technology gets oversold. Sometimes you have to manage expectations. They think you'll be able to do too much, and sometimes they don't believe what you can do. So, but ultimately, we know that we can provide value many times more than what they spend, and somehow we make a little bit of money along the way, because unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to charge based on the value. So if I had the chance to start a new company in my field, I would start a company that would work for free. Just pay me 20%, 15%, or some, let's figure out some number of what we make for you. And the problem with that working practically is almost no one does business that way, and the legal team will kill it. You know, lawyers are hired to say no, right? They almost never say yes. That's the only thing that's risky for them, is if they say yes to something. So if they just say no to everything, everything's all safe. So doing it a new way, but I think if once you've got enough momentum, like if you got started and that was the only way you did business, then I think you might be able to do that. Of course, we didn't have couldn't afford to do things that way because we didn't have any extra money. We've never had any extra money in 28 years. It's all been bootstrapped. So we have to make a little enough money to pay people. And I would say one of my pieces of advice is get a relationship with the bank while you don't need money. You know, banks don't lend money to people who need money. They only lend money to people that are going to pay it back, right? So I didn't have a relationship with the bank for a long time, but I did have a car that I could park, and then I had a house that I could take a mortgage on because they didn't collateralize loan. You know, it's cheaper than otherwise. I think now my wife is a saint. You know, we had 5 kids, and she's in charge of them, and I'm like unmortgaging our house. You know, mortgaging our house. You know, it's like people who talk about how easy it is to quit smoking. They've done it dozens of times. It's really easy to pay off your mortgage. I've done it dozens of times. You know, but you know, you need a source of funding of some sort because there are going to be ups and downs. One of the really cool things that happened in our field. Oh, by the way, on the British Petroleum thing, before I change subject, was a big success technically. They were all excited about it, but they actually never implemented. So we had, you know, they'd spent maybe $1 million for us to build it. It turns out before that they tried 4 other companies and failed. And then they spent like $10 million to clean up the data in the first place. It was in horrible shape. So they had spent millions and millions of dollars. We delivered them a full working solution and they didn't use it. Now that only happens to us about 10% of the time. We almost always see our project through, but in our field is involving so much change to a way a company does something that the industry-wide average is 5 out of 6 projects that work in the lab never get implemented. Only a small fraction, less than 20% of the projects that solve all the problems that someone said they wanted to solve actually get used to make the actual decisions in the real world. Now that's certainly going to increase as people get more used to machine learning and data science and artificial intelligence, but right now it's a huge tragedy. Now while our rate is not 17%, it's 90% of achievement, but that's because we've been in business 28 years and we learned the hard way some of the hurdles we had to get over to get people to actually use our stuff. Now they're paying for the project whether they use it or not. But are you going to have a repeat customer if they're not using it? Are you going to have your employees be satisfied that their work's not getting used? You know, people really want to see their stuff used. If you pay somebody out there to dig a ditch, and then you pay them the next day to cover it back up, they're not going to stay with you, right? They need to dig the ditch because you're bringing in pipes and you're bringing electricity or water. You know, they need a purpose behind what they're doing. And you can see their work used. So it's very satisfying when you can help someone solve a problem they've been working on for a long time, and when they use it and they get all excited. When we do work for government agencies, typically in anti-fraud. I say we do a lot of work in fraud. I just want to mention we're against it. So anyway, we do a lot of work in fraud, but we typically triple their productivity. So the same amount of investigations they've done, we've done a prioritization of the cases based on past cases, patterns. So we've prioritized and scored the cases, and typically triple their productivity with the same amount of investigation. So you meet somebody who's been working at an agency for 20 years. I don't know if anybody here has worked in a really large organization or a large agency. It can be kind of deadening because there's just so many hoops you have to jump through, especially to do something new or something like that. And it's hard to make changes. Well, they get this breakthrough in performance, and they get a whole revitalization of their career. So you're seeing people get charged up as well as problems being solved, and they're happy to see you. You know, you helped them solve something, you help them make a difference. That's what they've always wanted to do, to make it more of a difference. So it's very cool. Yeah, anytime.
You have thoughts about why the lab bench solution doesn't translate to real growth? Is it because it doesn't integrate well with workflow?
Yeah, you definitely have to pay a lot of attention to the technical details of how they're going to implement, how they're going to use it. And you have to think about the end at the beginning. But the biggest thing is fear. It's change management. It's the fear of change. And frankly, if it hasn't happened to you, you don't fully appreciate it. Like I'm always like, oh, why don't we just use our stuff? Well, change came to elder research. We had to start doing things differently, and it was painful. It's no fun at all. And by the way, also think about the person's individual. Let's say you've got a new way to do the well maintenance, something like that. And there's a standard way, and nobody gets fired for doing it the standard way. And maybe you've got competitors and they're doing it their way. Well, you take the risk of doing some new way. What's the upside? If it works, what's the upside? Maybe a raise, maybe an attaboy. What's the downside? If it's a complete crashing failure, you're out of there. Maybe you got a kid that's in college. It's not symmetric risk reward. And even if they were symmetric, we humans take risk way, loss is way worse than we take gain. You can make $10, you feel a little bit of happiness, but not nearly the amount of sadness that you lose $10, much less $1,000 or $10,000. So the barrier to doing it a different way is tough, even for well-intentioned people. So somebody has to almost sacrifice their own interests for the sake of the company or the organization's interests, and taking on faith that this is going to work.
You find sometimes that you need like a top-down champion who's going to embrace it.
That's a great question, talking about top-down or not. We early on in our work, we talk at technical conferences or something like that. So we get somebody interested, and they were kind of a mid-level technical person. Then they had to sell it up the chain, and it turned out to be a lot better if you could get the CEO, the C-suite people who liked it and push it down. That really makes a difference. Plus, they also tend to think it'd be a longer project, a bigger project, rather than a trial project or something like that. And so in that sense, it was a very big positive when a book came out, 10 or 15 years ago called Competing on Analytics. It was written by people who weren't data scientists, they were like business people, consulting and so forth. But they were saying, you can compete on price, you can compete on quality, or you can compete on analytics. You can use this as a new way, and it spoke the language of the C-suite. And interest in data science tripled after that. And again, we're also talking now to hire people to read this book, and the CEO would say, give me some of that. And this was completely new, because before, we'd always have an education problem. Like, what is it you understand? What are you here? Luckily, we had a lot of success stories we could use to do. So interest tripled. We're in there. We've been there for a long time. Everything's great for about a year. What happened after that? It's all working great. It's getting great press. Competition. Everybody rebrands himself as a data scientist. Anybody who's a statistician or operations researcher. Venture money came out of the woodwork. 7,000 companies were started doing products on niche areas of data science. Funding came for consulting firms. We had a competition. We were bidding on a project with a New York investment management firm, and I've done a lot of work in that area. We had visualization tools, and they said, this is a perfect proposal. It's everything we always wanted, but I'm looking at another proposal here, and it's $0 because the company had $20 million in funding, hired a bunch of PhDs. None of them had any experience, so they did the project for free to get the experience, and it didn't need to be paid. So we didn't win that project. So venture capital, consulting firms, product firms, offshoring, everything came at us, and it was 10 times harder. So we had 3 times better for a little while, divided by 10. So all of a sudden, and I did not see that coming. I didn't see that.
This, I know somebody's wife is studying data science, and I'm wondering if it's going to be more on the quality assurance side of it, as opposed to actual computing out
Yeah, so a good question. So on the technical side, the AI, like the amazing things that have been happening in ChatGPT, that thing is basically just answering, predicting the next word you use. But it can do some pretty astonishing things. You know, it's gotten, it's passed the doctor's exam, you know, that sort of thing. But then a doctor tests it with diagnosis, and it's got the right answer is one of the possibilities most of the time. You know, so it's still being figured out. But one of the big danger is some of our clients think that it's solved their problem. That it's the hot new thing, and they think, oh, we don't need this anymore. We'll just do this. So, you know, I think the strengths and weaknesses of the different approaches will be more clear in a year, but it's a dangerous year right now, as people say, oh, wait a minute, maybe we should do it all with this. What I don't know, I don't want to take up much time, but what that technology is really good for is if you have a well-defined realm, like if you have a machine that needs maintenance and you've got a manual on it, and it can study all the manual and it can ask a question and it can tell you back, you know, whereas open-ended creative things. I don't know if you've ever tried to do, you ask yourself, say, what did James invent? You know, like, and then it'll tell you some things, and it'll pull some reality, and then it'll lie brazenly, and it'll, you know, you invented the vulcanization of rubber and to help to discover the Azores, and you know, it's like, what? You know, it's just, they call it hallucinating. And so it's like, yeah, it's great for high school essays, but I wouldn't use it for, you know, making decisions, because unless you really know the subject very well, you don't know where it's lying. It's the weirdest thing. Try it.
John, do you have anything else to share? You want to keep going with questions?
Questions are great.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
Thank you so much. I'm interested in given your time starting companies, what do you think is how an entrepreneur should start with what idea to pick? In the sense that if you're passionate about a problem, is that the only criteria to go and solve that problem? Or do you also have to think about the money?
Good question. So I'm really lucky that, you know, I'm in a field where you can get multiple superlatives. You know, it's the only reason we're still alive. You know, like we did some work, anti-fraud work for the IRS and earned income tax credit. It's really a kind of a half welfare program that helps people who otherwise would be on welfare take entry-level jobs, get a little extra money in half welfare, so that it actually makes sense for them to take that entry-level job. And so it has positive encouragement. But because it's small numbers and they're lowering the barrier to entry, it meant organized crime could go after it too by inventing people, inventing independence, and so forth. In fact, we taxpayers were getting billions of dollars stolen from us. So they had a model, the IRS had a model for doing it. It was a better model. The model was 25 times better than their model. And they used it right away, and they've credited it with saving over $20 billion so far. So, you know, they spend $1 million, let's say they get back 20 million and counting. This is an incredible return on investment. But we didn't get paid anything, depending on it's 20 million or 30 million. Now, that's the way I would really love to do it. Just do 1% of the savings. I'll do it for free. But that's a hard sales problem. And then there's also no guarantee that we'll actually use it. Remember, 5 out of 6 people their stuff never gets used. So how can you ensure that it gets used? But I started the company just absolutely convinced that data science, machine learning, inductive modeling was valuable and would find a place. And I didn't give any thought to what the size of the market was or anything like that. I could afford to do that because, you know, it was a good return on investment from the thing. But anybody has got to add more value than take it away. You know, you definitely want your customer to make more money from using you than they spend on you, you know, times 2 or 3 if possible. So, and then I also tell people, even if you're in a large corporation, you can think of yourself that way. You think of yourself, what value am I adding? Am I helping my unit, my boss, my team 2x what it costs for me, all the costs of my field, I didn't pay any attention to that and somehow survived, but I think other times you do have to assess the landscape.
Kind of on that thought that you were just saying, how do you communicate that to your clients? A lot of the times, they may not have any idea what it is that you do. So how do you communicate that value to them?
Yeah, it seems that different industries wake up to the power of analytics at different times. And I think the reason they do is because a competitor starts to gain market share using analytics. So all drug companies one year had to come visit and give courses on data science. So they all woke up at once. All the insurance companies woke up a couple of years after that. I think on the insurance side, it was Progressive that did it. Progressive used analytics first. We didn't have anything to do with that. But Progressive would do this cool thing. You would type in your information, and Progressive would say, we'll charge you $386, but I'll say we'll charge you only $302. Like, what are they doing? They're doing adverse selection. They're saying, please go over there. We think that you will lose us money, but these guys will charge you less. So it looks to the consumer like a really, wonderful thing. Here's somebody that loves me. Won't even take my money and they're sending me elsewhere cheaper. But the other company was like, oh no, they were losing money on people that were sending over there, and very clever. Anyway, when that happened, all the insurance companies they're using analytics. I mean, they've got all these, I forget what it's called, the specialists that work out the risk. Actuaries, thank you. So they have very specialized analytics, and it's highly tested and huge amounts of continuing education required. But it's also got blinders. There's only a couple of ways they're allowed to look at the data. And so it turns out if you open up the possibilities, you can find more things and you can do a better job. And they sort of had to wake up to that because somebody else, but people are really, we're all lazy. We'll do it the way that's working until there's a problem. Some people call it the stage is on fire. Till the stage is on fire, you're not going to jump off of it and do something different.
Hi, if you can think far enough back for when you first were starting the companies, whatever, you obviously had very deep expertise in certain areas, but perhaps don't know other things or like business development or those kind of things. And to create momentum in your company to get it to the point that you can start creating flow. Was there anything in your experience or how you found complementary expertise that you could work with that you didn't necessarily even have the money to hire? Required?
Great point, Vinny. Thank you. So let me mention that having a company is a process of letting go. You're doing everything, and then you bring in help. You find somebody to help you do the stuff you don't like or the stuff you're not good at. The stuff you need the most, and you let that go. And eventually I let go of things I loved and that I was really good at. It's like I used to do all the work, then I let all the work, then I brought in all the work, then I managed the work, then I suggested things about the work, and I kind of waited as it was fine. It's like, okay, I dream achieved, just like raising a kid. You love the kid, and then you've done such a good job of raising them. They're off on their own, doing their own thing, and like, kind of this kid, So I'm at that stage right now. That's where I can play basketball. So I'm not indispensable by any means in any way. And I worked hard to get to this spot, and I'm like still a little bit wondering, was that the right move? So, but that is what ideally what you do is you hire people better than yourself, at least at something, and you give them the authority and the responsibility. And they made decisions I wouldn't have made. And some of the time, it was a bad decision or it didn't work. Other times it worked great, and you just have to let it happen. And that's the hardest thing because my younger brother would say, I would agree, control freak, and perfectionist. And that's good. That'd be a good property if you could turn it on and turn it off. If you have it, it's not a good leadership thing. You have to let people do their thing. And the problem is, as someone takes on a leadership role, let's say they're a really good individual producer and they get hired, they get moved up. I'm sure everyone here has experience where that's not worked out so well. And of course, that person knows how to do the job of the people that they're managing much better than the people they're managing. I mean, after all, they were a star at that job just recently. So it's very hard for them not to micromanage, so we try to identify people who want to take on, have some people skills, can speak human. Not everyone in the technical fields can, and have tracks for if you want to stay technical or if you want to take on some leadership or management position. And leadership is really fun. You're developing people, and we have a very much an attitude of let's talk about management a little bit. GE was famous for its management of technical people, right? One of its things was every group, every year had to fire the bottom 2%. So in this room, we got 30 people? 3 of us are doomed. And you're looking around thinking, oh, somebody, Vinny says, I don't know anything about square roots. And think, oh, it's not going to be me. This is, And the last thing you want to do is help Vinny learn about square roots, right? Because right now he's safely protecting you at that bottom stage. So that is a horrible, horrible thing. In fact, what managers do is they'll sometimes hire sacrificial lambs that they can later fire because they like their team. And just at least any second order effects are horrible. So we want our people to admit they don't know something if they don't know it, right? And who would admit that they didn't know something in an environment where you're being sacked and ranked and decimated, literally. So anyway, just the implications to your leadership culture are very good and are very huge. And you want to hire really good people who will also help somebody else out if they don't know something, or admit that they don't know something, because you get in real trouble down the road that way. So most of the things we try don't work, but most of our projects succeed. So, there's a lot of, it's opening discovery. There's no guarantee. Mining is a good analogy. You're smashing rock, you're working really hard to get there. There's no guarantee there's anything underneath the surface that you're going to find. But if there is, it's gold or diamonds or something, or oil, it's really valuable. So when you're failing, you don't know if success is even possible, but you have to keep trying. So.
Thank you so much. So much deep experience. It's really quite amazing. So we really appreciate you coming in. John, give him a hand.
All right.
If anyone wants to get in touch with you.
Yeah. So our office is right across the street there. elderresearch.com is my email. So love to hear from you.
So is it John at Elder Research?
No, just elder@elderresearch.
Oh, elder@elderresearch.com.
Yeah. Just elder.
All right, thank you so much. All right, well, we will begin to wind down. We are going to move into announcements right now. So just to tell you how that works, basically you have the opportunity to share if there's any upcoming events that you'd like this entrepreneur-oriented community to know about, or if your company is hiring, you also have the opportunity to share that. We're going to start with the hosting organizations. So if one of you ladies want to come up for CIC, we'll start with them, or SBDC.
Multiple mics, which I think is working. For those of you who don't know, my name is Hannah. I am the operations coordinator at CIC, or Community Investment Collaborative. We are a nonprofit that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. We are also just down the street, humanly located. Anyone feels like dropping in to see our space, but we help entrepreneurs primarily through financing, mentoring, and education. So one of our main offerings is a 16-week workshop that we hold twice per year. We have at least one graduate in here, and that is happening right now, but if anyone's interested, or someone who's interested, applications are opening again in just 2 weeks on May 1st. And then we also have a mentorship program, we have financial management program, and we are the host of the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, or the CVSBDC. I know this is a lot of acronyms, but she'll be sharing more about that in a moment. So yeah, we have a lot going on. If anyone is looking for assistance, definitely reach out. My email is hannah@cicbill.org, or you can go to cicbill.org. And as far as announcements go, workshop applications open in a couple weeks. We also have TomTom Pitch Night is happening here this Thursday. I'm sure all of you know TomTom Festival is happening. CIC has historically been a part of TomTom's Pitch Night, and we have a few clients who are going to be pitching. There'll be 10 people, all awesome people, awesome ideas, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's happening right here, so everyone already knows the location, nice and easy. It is going to be from 7 to 8:30, and there's a happy hour starting at 6. You don't have to sign up or anything, you can just show up and listen to some pitches, vote for your favorites, and have fun. So yeah, thanks for coming. Also, just as a reminder, I know this sounds old for those of you who are here every week, but if you can remember to sign up beforehand, it just helps us out a little bit with keeping track of these here. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Shira Goldine. I am the events coordinator with the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, or CBSBDC, the worst acronym in the world. And we have a ton of stuff coming up. So just a little bit about SBDC. We are basically a free resource available for small businesses. The Central Virginia SBDC serves the city of Charlottesville and 9 surrounding counties. So Nelson all the way up through Rappahannock. And we have expert business advisors available for one-on-one advising and access to industry and market research tools. And we put on training programs and all sorts of other things. And starting on Thursday with the TomTom Pitch Night, we are entering a month-and-a-half marathon where there will be 3 pitch nights and 2 conferences and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. So if you see me running around the area, I'm on my way to an event, you should come with me. So highlights, TomTom, as Hannah mentioned, and on May 11th at the Wool Factory, we are putting on Piedmont Pitch, which is the end of a 10-week program that is sponsored by the City of Charlottesville and Albemarle County Economic Development Offices. We've got a whole host of local entrepreneurs that have been going through 8 weeks of trainings, and there will be a pitch competition at the end. We'll have 6 finalists in that. I don't know who they are yet, but it's going to be good. Wool Factory, there will be food, there will be booze, you should come. So that is May 11th. And if anyone is up in Culpeper, between now and then, we have the Culpeper County Conference on April 26th. So that's next Wednesday. In the morning, there's going to be 2-hour workshops and 1-hour power courses on a whole bunch of stuff. And it's going to be a great opportunity to get some free educational programming, as well as a panel of Culpeper business owners and lunch. We like to feed people. And other things coming up on May 18th, also in this room, we are hosting the Global Launchpad with our state office, the Virginia SBDC International Business Program. So Global Launchpad is a half-day conference for companies looking at international opportunities. So we can help small businesses access import and export opportunities and expand into global markets. It's a lot easier than it sounds, and we have access to all sorts of resources that can help with that. If you have questions about it, please let me know. If you have specific questions about international things, I will connect you with our director, Rebecca, because I cannot answer those questions, but she can, and it's impressive. And I've learned it's a lot easier than you think. And we are hiring. CIC and SBDC have, I think we still have 3 open positions. I don't think an offer's been made. A rural ecosystem, I forget all of the titles. Someone to do rural ecosystem builder, there we go. Working in our rural counties, and an outreach coordinator for the workshop, and an HR director. These are all part-time opportunities. And to get the actual titles and descriptions, you can look on the CPC website, because clearly Hannah and I can't remember. But we're hiring, we like to think we're a great team, so come work with us. And Hannah's gonna add something. I'm not gonna try to tell you my email address, it's complicated, but I have business cards, so come talk to us at the table at the end.
All right, sorry. So yeah, just to go over that again, Director of Human Resources, Rural Ecosystem Builder, Workshop and Outreach Coordinator, all of those are part-time, and we're also looking for a full-time FMP coordinator, which is Financial Management Program, the one I mentioned earlier. And I just want to add on that we're also looking for some interns this summer. So if any of you know someone who might want to intern, we are looking for someone to help specifically with finances, like loan applications, kind of putting together loan proposals, looking at cash flow projections, and then someone to also help with comms and marketing. So once again, Hannah@cicbuild.org. Just reach out if you know someone who might be interested, or you can feel free to pass on my email. Thanks.
Hi, Craig Koenig. I'm one of the directors of Ce-2. Ce-2 is local tech council. We support local technology companies with networking events, education events, and all sorts of stuff like this event here we have. Real quick, as you know, as was just mentioned, TomTom is this week. Tomorrow evening, 5 to 7 in this building is a tech mixer. But supposedly all throughout the building. Rob, is that correct? All throughout the building. Okay, very good. Oh, in here? Okay, great. Great. So be sure to come to that. That'll be a lot of fun. Thursday morning, I'm trying to go in order here. Thursday morning, Tracy Green, who's executive director of Ce-2, will give a state of tech talk at the Code Theater, this very theater at 9 a.m. And the keynote speaker for that is Tony Palmer from Village. And the whole day of Thursday is the TomTom Tech for Good. So there's events all day. You can pre-register at the TomTom site, and it's kind of pay as you wish basis for tickets. So I encourage you to do that. As far as CVIC is concerned itself, there's a couple different events I'll let you know about. Tech Talent on Tap. We usually have Tech on Taps where we have networking events, but this is a specific one designed for Tech Talent. It's April 25th, which is next week, at the Dairy Market. There's a downstairs event center at the Dairy Market. So again, that's the Tech Talent on Tap. And we have our gala, our annual gala is June 1st. Tickets start on sale next week, so we encourage you to go to that. Also, just keep in the back of your mind, if you play golf, we're going to have a golf tournament that's moved from October to August, and it's at Glenmore Country Club. And I think I've come. Okay. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So if there's any question on if this entrepreneur ecosystem is thriving and there are things to do, hopefully it's very clear that there's a lot to do to be involved. So now I will give the floor to any of you if your company is hiring, or if there's any similar type of events that you'd like to tell everyone about. These just on projects. Can you speak up more? Can you yell? Can we remote mic?
Hello, my name's James. I run a company called Digital Minerva, based up there in Harrisonburg. We're a web marketing and development company. We're not actually hiring ourselves, but one of my client's sons has recently completed a front-end dev bootcamp, and so he's looking for an entry-level position of front-end development. So if anyone needs an intern or some entry-level, I'd be happy to forward on his resume to them.
Anybody else? Okay. By profession, I'm a recruiter, so I can tell you a couple of opportunities. Just got a couple. Let's see. Ce-2, whom you just heard Craig talk about. We are looking for kind of an events coordinator slash administrative professional, so somebody to kind of blend and be very involved in the entrepreneur ecosystem. And so if you know anyone that would be great at that, please send them to me. And then UVA, I actually have a contact there that's looking for a marketing coordinator, a digital marketing coordinator specifically. This is just a contract role. So if you know anyone that would be open to a contract role from like mid-July to mid-October, please come see me and I can give you more information. You know, 3+ years of experience is the minimum on that one. And then we are open to volunteers here with CE2. You know, if you want to be involved with running this event in any way, come see me or one of the ladies in the back as well. There's a couple of different things that we could come up with for you to help with, just to keep it growing and whatnot. So with that, we are concluded today. We will be back here the 3rd Tuesday of May. Sorry to think through what month we're in. The 3rd Tuesday of May, we'll be back here again. And I wanted to again thank Codebase Co-working, Rob Archer there in the back, for hosting and really sponsoring this event and allowing us to use this beautiful space. Having said that, a couple of things I want to say about it is, first of all, Kendra, I believe, is available to do tours. So if you're interested in learning more about this space as a co-working space, there's a couple of people in here that are members, but they can give you a tour. Just meet them in the back. And then also, I do want to remind you every single time that when you come to please enter these doors in the back, these theater entrance doors, as opposed to the mall entrance, because there is this check-in to be a member and it's just more complicated. So please remember to always enter these back doors. They'll be open for you for this particular event. And with that, we're done. We look forward to seeing you all next month. And thank you both, Ryan and Neil, and good job as well.